Hey, Probstats kids, this is Dr. Callahan for week 8 Wednesday. How are you guys doing? Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions. Just to put things into perspective so that way you know where we are. So today is week 8 Wednesday. Your warm-up log is due on week 9 Friday, and you should have 100 boxes filled out. If you do not, make sure you go to the YouTube channels and then watch all the videos from week 1 Monday. You don't have to watch the video in its entirety, but just the first 10 seconds so you can see the 3 questions. In addition to this, your white packet, which is going to be for your chapter 11, unit 2, is going to be due by this Friday as well. So I'm going to be giving you guys unit 3's white packet. So make sure that all of your homework templates is completed. And if you did not complete them, make sure you go to the Google Doc to do so. All right, so the question that I gave you guys had numbers, and I asked you to see what the next pattern would be. And in this case, if you look at it, the numbers are going up, and it's actually going up pretty quickly, like from a 2 to an 8 to a 32, 32 to 128, and that's being multiplied in ascending order, which means it's going up. And so for the next 3 numbers, you would just need times, sorry. Okay, that's even more annoying. 128 by 4, and then that number by 4, and then the following number by 4. So make sure you do that, and you should get the next 3 numbers.
I'm trying to go to bed.
Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on. So take a look at the breakdown for today.
And you should record.
All right, so with that said, take a look at today's objective. It is for 11.7, probability and independent events. We're going to go over objective 14 on page 22. This is also your last section before we turn the white packet in. Oops. And so then just keep in mind that you should have everything completed in the white packet for chapter 11, unit 2 is due on week 8, Friday. Your homework tonight is going to be the last part of this, which is 2 to 14 evens, and it's going to be on 11.7 on the Google Doc for week 8, Wednesday. So make sure you do that on the back of your template. And lastly, just keep in mind that you need to make sure your white guided note for Unit 2, Chapter 11 is ready to be turned in, and everything is copacetic and organized. All right, go ahead and read the objective for Chapter 11.7. I'm going to talk about conditional probabilities. So probabilities with independent events are 2 events that are independent events. If the occurrence of either of them has no effect on the probability or of the other, which means no effect is indicating that there's no relationship and not dependent. So let's take a look at example 1. Go ahead and read that. All right, so the question says, find the probability of a red occurring on 2 consecutive plays. Consecutive basically means the play is going to be from back to back. And you want the first spin to go ahead and land on a red, and the second spin to land on a red as well. So here are the possibilities. Your possibilities is going to be a total of 38. And if you're like, how do you get 38? Well, there are 18 reds. There are also 18 blacks, just like a deck of cards. But then different than black, you also have 2 that can land on green. So then altogether, 38 total. So then what you're going to do is that you're going to find the probability of landing on a red followed by a red, which means it's going to be the probability of getting a red times the probability of a red. So the probability of a red is going to be 18 out of 38 because there are 18 reds, and the total is going to be out of 38 times 18 out of 38. So grab your calculators and multiply them out. Now you could reduce the fraction, but it's going to take way too long. So we're just going to put this into decimal forms, which is going to be 0.224. Or, so what are the chances of you getting 2 consecutive reds? 22.4%. And that is your answer. All right, let's take a look at example 2. Go ahead and read it. Oh my goodness. So I have 4 kiddos and I have 3 older boys. And I thought, oh my goodness, what are the chances of having 3 boys in a row? So the chances of having, a girl or a boy is obviously 1/2 because it's either a boy or a girl. I mean, you're not going to have, end up giving birth to a puppy. I mean, it's a girl or a boy. And so it's 50-50. So the probability of having 3 boys is just going to be 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, which is 1/8. And if you go ahead and divide that, it's actually a pretty small chance of that happening, which is going to give you a 0.125, which converts to 12.5%. So there's only a 12.5% chance of anybody having 3 boys. And then, of course, I have 3 boys. So it was very interesting. And then I thought, well, what are the chances when I decide to have my 4th child that if it's going to be a girl or a boy? I mean, I know they say it's 50-50, but it's not. And actually, there's some statistics out there that genetically says that if you have 3 or 2 of the same gender children, the 3rd child or the 4th child or the 5th child is most likely going to be the same gender child. So the chances of me having a girl, I thought at the time, was very, very low. So then if I had 4 boys, it would be 1 out of 16, which is 0.0625. So in the entire world, how many percentage of people actually have 4 kids of the same gender, like 4 boys or 4 girls? It is a very low 6.25%. And, and interesting enough, I actually don't fall into that group because my 4th child ended up being a girl, which I'm very excited for. Yeah, so it's a very, very low percentage had I had 4 kids of the same gender and I had 4 boys. But anyways, we're not talking about that. We're talking about if the probability of a child being born female is 1/2, what is the probability of a female having 9 girls in a row? So 9 girls means I'm going to find the probability of having 1 girl times the probability of having a 2nd girl, 3rd girl, and I'm going to keep on 9 times. I'm going to do this literally 9 times. So what is the chances of having 1 girl? Well, it's 1/2. So instead of doing 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 9 times, you can go ahead and just do 1/2 to the 9th power. So 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 9 times is still 9, but what is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 9 times? A lot of people say, oh, it's going to be 18. And guess what? That's actually really not correct. And the reason for that is because you're not looking at 2 times 9. You're looking at 2 times 2 times 2, 9 times, which actually is a pretty big number. So if you go ahead and do 0.5 to the 9th power, which is the same thing as if you just multiply this 9 times, you're going to get 0.00195. So you convert that into a decimal, there is less than a percent. It's 0.195% of people in the world that have 9 kids that will be either all 9 boys or all 9 girls. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at example 3. Go ahead and read the question. Not sure if anybody has been to Florida before, but Florida is beautiful. A lot of people retire there because of the amazing beaches and the nice weather. But at the same time, Florida also has a lot of hurricanes and tsunamis and rainfall. And yeah, that's something they don't tell you when you're traveling over there. So what is the probability that South Florida will be hit by a hurricane in 3 consecutive years? Although I have to say, this last few years, I think Florida, Louisiana, Georgia, all the big states in the South have been hit by a hurricane, like repeatedly. This year, I think we had 2 within like a few weeks of each other just last month. So anyways, so what is the probability if the statistic says that it gets hit by a hurricane 5 out of 19 times? So what we're going to do is we'll find the probability of getting hit by a hurricane the first year times they're hit by a hurricane the second year, and then hit by the probability of a hurricane the third year. So then what I have here is 5 out of 19 times 5 out of 19 times 5 out of 19. Or another way of writing that is 5 out of 19 to the third power. So I don't want to do 5 times 5 times 3 times, or 19 times 19 times 19 3 times. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this this fraction into a decimal. So 5 divided by 19, grab a calculator. You're correct, it's 0.26. And you're going to do 0.26 times 0.26 times 0.26. Or if you really want, you can just go ahead and use the exponent button on your calculator if you're more fancy and advanced, which gives you a 0.018. If you convert that into a percentage, it is 1.8%, which is a very, very small percent of having a hurricane every single year for the next 3 years consecutively. So B asks you, what is the probability that South Florida will not be hit by a hurricane in the next 10 years? That's interesting. So you know that if it's going to hit by a hurricane, the probability is 5 out of 19. So we also talked about odds, like in favor, against, and just like a deck of cards. If it is not going to get hit by a hurricane, then that just means you're going to take the 19 minus a 5 divided by the 19, which is going to give me 14 over 19. That's a probability of not having a hurricane. So if I want to find the probability of no hurricane for the next 10 years, I'm just going to take the not hurricane, 14 over 19 to the 10th power, or I'm going to multiply it 10 times. So grab your calculator. What is 14 to the 10th power? And what is 19 to the 10th power? You could do it that way, or you can go ahead and do the little shortcut, which is just do 14 divided by 19. That's going to get you a number. And then you take that number and actually, let me give you that number. 0.737. Now take your little caret on your calculator and make sure it's to the 10th power. And that is going to give you a 0.05 or 5%. So there is a 5% chance that there will be no hurricanes in the next 10 years. Or you could see it as there is a 95% chance that there will absolutely be a hurricane. So when you move to Florida, make sure the foundation of your house is very stable. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the last part right here. Go ahead and read that. So what is the probability that South Florida will be hit by a hurricane at least once, that's the key word, in the next 4 years? So there's a little formula that's given to you, and it says P, probability of event happening at least once, is going to be the number 1 minus the probability that the event does not happen. Well, that generally makes sense because you take whatever the total is and you minus what doesn't happen to see and equal that to what does happen. So in the probability that the event does happen once, so event happens once is 1 minus, well, I'm going to have to subtract the event that does not happen. Well, what is that going to be? Let's take a look. The probability of the hurricane not getting hit in 4 years is going to be 14 out of 19. And it's for 4 years, so I'm going to do that to the 4th power, which will give you a 0.74 to the 4th power, which is a 0.3 in the event that it does not happen, which means I take that 0.3 and I put it down here, which gives me a 0.70 or 70% that it gets hit by a hurricane at least once in the next 4 years. So there's a 70% chance. All right, you guys, that is it. So what I want you guys to do now is just somewhere on an empty blank piece of paper, I want you guys to go ahead and do an SEL activity with me. You are going to draw a quadrilateral. I'm sorry, not a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral has 4 sides, Callahan. You're going to do a hexagon that has 6 sides. There you go. And then from that 6-sided hexagon, you are going to draw a petal on each of the sides of the hexagon. So you should have 6 petals. And then on each of the petals, you're going to write down, I am, I believe, I can control my, today I am, today is going to be, and I can get. And this is kind of effort of my positive self-talk, and especially during this difficult time with COVID, which everybody I'm sure is having a little bit of difficulty going through things. You are going to take this time and tell me, fill in the blank about the following in terms of positive self-talk. So for example, I wrote, I am enough. I believe in myself and my abilities. I can get through this. I keep telling myself this every single day. Today is going to be an awesome day. Sometimes when I say that, I am like grinding my teeth and clenching my jaw, but I still say it. And I believe that this is going to be a freaking awesome day. Today, I am a leader. I can control my own happiness. So go ahead and write down the ones for yours. All right, you guys, have a wonderful week 8 Wednesday. I will see you guys next time. As always, stay safe and healthy.